Good afternoon. Welcome to Trail Talk. I'm back. Yes, we're coming to you live today from the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center in Duncan, Oklahoma. We're in our classroom studio today. Yep. The old trusty PowerPoint behind us.
Volume 10.
Yeah, I'm Edie.
And I'm Mary.
And we are so glad you could watch today. We're having a really, I have really been loving this Oklahoma Governors series that we've been doing. It just seems like I've learned a lot. A lot. Something.
You're never too old to learn something new.
Exactly. And honestly, I feel like it explains some things about our state government. And in a way, it kind of makes me want to like look at other states and see if they've had that same kind of tawdry past that we've had here.
That is $1,000 word,
right? Yeah, that's the word of the day, people. Anyway, so yeah, we're talking Oklahoma History Heroes, Volume 10. There are a lot of Oklahoma History Heroes, y'all. I don't know how many volumes this series is going to have, but our Oklahoma Governors numbers 21 through 24. This is next to the last go round.
Yeah, we're like,
we have 4 more.
Yeah, we're getting to like current times, people.
Yeah, yeah. I remember a lot of the things that we're talking about today. So let's just jump in here, Mary.
All right. David Lyle Warren,
yeah.
75 to 79.
Yeah. Now this, I like the head. Right. This probably is a picture from about that time period.
Oh yeah, the white tie.
Yeah. I kind of dug around and tried to find pictures that were time appropriate for those. And forgive me, I always want to refer to him as President Warren.
I know.
Because he was the president at OU when my kids were going to school.
That's
there.
how I knew him.
Yeah.
I knew the name was from the university.
But he was the governor from 75 to 79. So he just served 1 term in office. But his father was a U.S. representative, Lyle Warren. And he was actually born in Washington, D.C. Yeah, so he went to school in Seminole and Bethesda, Maryland. I guess his dad maybe lived there. Yeah, then he went to Yale, and then he was a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford University in England. And just a little tidbit. So the Union at OU, the way the seating area is constructed, it's to look like a pub. Seating from his days at Oxford, because he really he thought that was a great atmosphere kind of thing. Yeah. And so there's your little trivia for the day.
Now you know.
Yeah. And he got his law degree in 1968 from the University of Oklahoma. So pretty well educated.
Oh God. Yes, well-rounded.
Well-rounded, yeah, sure. Education. He got married. His wife was named Jana Lou Little. And her
Doolittle Lee.
Yeah. Her father was a politician from Medill, and they had 2 children together, Dan and Carrie. And then sadly they were divorced in 75. But in 67, he was elected to the Oklahoma House of Representatives, and he served 4 terms. There. So, yeah, so I guess those are 2-year terms. The House is 2 years, I think. So, because that's like 8, 7, that's 7. I don't know. We're having trouble with that. But anyway,
7 years.
Yeah, he practiced law in Seminole and became captain in the Oklahoma Army National Guard, and was also the chair of the social science department at Oklahoma Baptist University in Shawnee. So, I mean, he really was involved in a lot of things.
He's here, he's there, he's everywhere.
Yeah. So in 74, he decided to run for governor, and he had the Boren Broom Brigade. And this was their
5,000 people carrying brooms on the steps of the Capitol at the eve of that election.
Yeah. How crazy is that? I wish I would have been stopped. Yeah, I would. So the thing, they were the Broom Brigade. They were going to sweep
out the old guard.
Yeah, sweep out the old guard and bring changes, reform to state government. And evidently, they really believed he could do it. He beat out the incumbent governor David Hall which is a rare thing to have happen. That you might remember David Hall's tenure ended a little rough with the 1973 riot at McAllister Prison and some questions about his, that wasn't a good way for him. His time in office
in their mouth.
Yeah. So he beat him out in the, well, I guess he just beat him. There was a runoff with Clem McSpadden. I have heard that name before. I don't know what he went on to do, but that name is familiar to me. And beat out Jim Inhofe.
We've heard that one before. James
M. for Mountain Inhofe. That really is his name, James Inhofe.
Mountain?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, in the 1974 general election. And at age 33, he was the nation's youngest governor when he was inaugurated in 75. So, and because he was so young and hip, I guess, his inaugural ball featured all kinds of music, big band and country, and Hoyt Axton, who happens to be his cousin, was a performer there. So that probably was a lot of fun. He emphasized reform. I think he came in ready to make changes. And in fact, I believe his whole political career was probably based on reform. Yeah, to me, he was a really good politician, a really good leader.
Yeah, he did a lot of things.
He sponsored legislation that would eliminate inheritance tax between spouses, which I can't believe there was an inheritance tax for spouses. Reducing income tax, the first cut in 27 years.
Right.
Yeah. A referendum that partially reorganized the executive branch, made Secretary of State, Labor Commissioner, and Chief Mine Inspector appointed offices. Did away with the Commissioner of Charities and Corrections, which sounds like a super old and obsolete kind of office anyway. Yeah, so exactly. And promoted corrections reform following that riot. He promoted and achieved something called sunset legislation, resulting in the elimination of more than 100 state agencies, commissions, and boards, which is
like, all right, we have way too much.
Yeah, that's a lot of pork. We don't need that. We're getting rid of it. And major reform to workers' compensation as well. During the gasoline crisis of the mid-1970s, which was a thing that I really remember. He rose to prominence on the national scene when he spoke out in favor of deregulation of natural gas prices at the federal level and impressed the president of that time, Jimmy Carter, to where he put him in charge of a task force. And
I like that he also had the first state funding to give to the talented.
Yes, I did not mention that. I mean, he just really had.
It wasn't just one area he was focused on.
Yeah, a broad vision. Absolutely. He married Molly Shy at the governor's mansion. He was was the first time that an Oklahoma governor was married while in office, and I don't think anyone else has been. The four that we're going to talk about and the others for today, none of them. So he's the only governor who's married in office. And they exchange vows with only immediate family members. So it was a nice little intimate setting. Yeah. So you might notice that he only served one term, 75 to 79, because in 78 he decided to run for U.S. Senate, and he was elected to serve there for 3 terms. And he had a lot of success.
He's recognized as a national leader.
Yes, chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, which is a big one. And then he resigned in 1994 to become president at the University of Oklahoma. So his wife was the first woman in Oklahoma history to serve as a trial judge, First Lady of the state of Oklahoma, and First Lady of the University of Oklahoma. And Warren became the first Oklahoman to serve as a state legislator, governor, U.S. senator, and president of the University of Oklahoma.
That's quite a resume.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And just for a funny, I have this picture President Warren. Yeah, this is my son, Andy. You might recognize Gary England over here. Channel 9, yeah, News 9 weatherman for a very long time. And here we have President of the University of Oklahoma, Warren. I can't remember what preceded this photograph, but
This gathering.
Yeah. He was in the something, what they call it, the President's Leadership Class or some PLC or something like that. And they did things with him. I think it's a Sooner covered wagon. Yeah. Just on a side note, we saw a picture at Versailles that had a covered wagon in it. That covered wagon made me.
I never said
that was weird.
I didn't want to let.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, just a little haul. He resigned from being the president of the university in 2018, so he's in retirement now. So there you have David Boren.
That's right.
Okay, and he was followed by George Patterson Nye.
Look at that hair.
Yeah. Now, you guys might remember we talked about Governor Nye
just
briefly because let's see, if he's the 22nd, I think he was about maybe the 18th or so as well.
So this was 62 when he followed her.
Yeah. So he was the lieutenant governor. And he ran for governor, but in 62 became governor for 9 days after Robert S. Kerr died. So he filled that slot until the person who was elected governor took office. Yeah. So that was his first term. Then in 66, he was lieutenant governor again, and became governor when he ran for governor because Governor Boren resigned.
Right.
Governor Boren left office 5 days early to assume duties as Senate, and so he was governor for 5 days, and then on inauguration day he was governor again and served. Yeah, that was his third term, and then he was reelected. He served for 8 years. So there you have it. It's a little complicated, but
keep up with this. Yeah, I promise you, we have it all right.
Yeah. And here's a little interesting note. This is something I just learned today. So if you've been here to the Heritage Center, and we may have spoken of Bernetta Griffith here before.
I think we have.
Yeah, if we haven't, sit tight. Even if we have, I've got a trail talk coming up that's going to be really good. But Bernetta Griffith is from Rush Springs. She is an artist, a Choctaw, and last summer this room was full mostly of her works that she's done, and we had a special thing in the corner. She has a dress made, a kind of a Choctaw regalia, a women's regalia, and we had kind of a special exhibit about her. Anyway, I met her daughter today, and her daughter told me that her uncle, or Bernetta's brother, his name was Spencer Bernard. He was lieutenant governor for these 2 terms that George Nye served as governor. And if you don't know or don't recall, here in Oklahoma, the governor and the lieutenant governor run on separate tickets. So, I mean, I don't know in this case if this is true, but they can be from 2 different parties.
Right, can be Republican, Democrat.
Right, yeah. Anyway, so Spencer Bernard from Rush Springs served as lieutenant governor, and he has kind of a connection to
So all here at the Heritage.
Yeah. So sit tight. You never know what we might introduce you to next. Okay, so this is actually him delivering his inaugural speech. And he didn't use prepared text. He used to write notes on the palm of his hand. And so everyone was really surprised because this is January, he pulled his gloves off, and there he had notes written on his hand.
I personally, when I was reading this, I was amazed, because I don't care how cold it is, you put leather gloves on, your hands are going to sweat.
It's exactly what I thought. I was reading through there, and I thought it's going to be smeared.
Oh yeah,
but it wasn't.
No.
Maybe he used a Sharpie. I don't know. I'm not sure, but
It
at
worked.
any rate,
It
yeah.
worked.
And so that's where he kept his notes for his inaugural speech. As governor, lieutenant governor and governor, he was Oklahoma's greatest cheerleader. And I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty sure that I listened to a podcast the other day and he was on it. And it was during his time as governor that the song Oklahoma became our state song. Bailey, would you check on that? I that just occurred to me.
What year did our state song became our state song?
I really think it was him.
We've talked about that before.
I'm pretty sure he was the one who did that. I could be completely wrong. We're about to find out and tell you. Anyway, he pushed Oklahoma tourism and industrial expansion efforts and enticed movie producers to film on location in the state. Now, I heard him talking about, if this was him, about how some Westerns, they wanted to film some things in Oklahoma, maybe even the movie Oklahoma, but on the areas that they wanted, 1953. Let's see.
I thought we had already talked about someone making it. So which governor would that have been?
State Representative George Nye.
Okay, he was state representative, and he was
I remember talking about it becoming our state song.
Okay, so I did remember that correctly. Okay, there you go. But he was saying that the electrical lines kept getting in the shots, and so that was one reason. I don't know. That was one reason that they didn't use the Oklahoma, the state, as the backdrop for some of the filming of those movies. So anyway,
they just blurred out CGI.
Exactly. So he brought organizational changes. I mean,
highways, arts.
Yeah. I mean, he was really an all-around great governor, I think. His first term, state revenues hit an all-time high, but then oil and gas prices started falling, which is the demise of our state over and over and over again, because we are so reliant on oil and gas, that kind of made his second term end a little roughly.
Wasn't as bright and shiny.
You know, it wasn't. That's the thing. The governor
hold them responsible.
Yeah, the governor doesn't have anything to do with the price of oil and gas, but you know, the buck stops somewhere. So he also was governor over two moral dilemmas: horse racing and liquor by the drink.
Yep.
And both things actually, I believe, passed, but it doesn't say which he was for or against. He increased, I loved this, he increased minority representation on state boards and commissions, and appointed the first woman to the Oklahoma to be women, Alma Wilson and Yvonne Cogger. And he led unprecedented, you said highway construction, and also continued improving the penal system, the correctional system. He later served the University of Central Oklahoma as president and engineered rehab and enlargement of the college's physical plant. But then he and his wife, Donna, headed the Donna Nye Foundation, a nonprofit organization serving Oklahomans with developmental disabilities, which is a great cause, a really great thing. So anyway, there you have George Nye. He won't come back again. This is the last term that he served.
I always think George Nye, the science guy. Every time I hear that, I think the science. That's Bill Nye.
That's Nye, yeah. But yeah, responsible for making Oklahoma our state song back in the 50s. So he was a long time public servant.
He was like Oklahoma pro Oklahoma.
Yeah.
When Oklahoma wasn't cool, like the cowboy thing.
Yeah. Okay, next was Henry Bellman. Interestingly enough, the first time that Governor Nye was the governor.
Those 9 days.
Then on the 10th day, Mr. Bellman, Henry Bellman, was sworn in as governor. And that was the first time since our state, since 1907, since statehood, that a Republican had been elected governor of the state of Oklahoma.
For the,
Yeah. This is a return to office. So kind of a roundabout way, just a little recap from when we talked about him before. He became the state chairman of the Republican Party. He had a different style of leadership. He became a state senator. I mean, no, a U.S. senator, right?
U.S. Senate.
Yeah, I believe he became a U.S. senator. Yeah, he did, and served on a lot of different committees and stuff. But remember, he was kind of a high up with the Republicans when Richard Nixon was president, and the whole Watergate thing, and yeah, and so yeah, and so he did defeat Representative Ed Edmondson. They called for a recount. It was challenged in court, and the court said Bellman won. Yeah. So then his second term as a senator, Panama Canal became a big issue. And this is something I wasn't familiar with. I was a teenager when this was going on, so things about the Panama Canal didn't seem important to me at the time. So I really did not follow a lot of this stuff. But in 78, the Senate debated the Panama Canal treaties, which mandated the return of the canal to Panama in the year 2000.
Which then, you know, the year
seemed, yeah, like, is that ever really going to happen?
Yeah.
He voted for ratification, even though other members of the Republican Party were not supportive. And anyway, he announced, and it says, interestingly, less than a year later, he announced he would not run for re-election. So I think there's probably speculation that particular vote on his part had a little bit to do with that. Right. So then in 86, he decided to re-enter politics and throw his hat in to become the governor, and defeated David Walters, who was the Democrat. I remember he's a Republican. This is the second time a Republican is taking office. Oh no, wait, maybe it's the third time. I think that it might have been David Hall, one of those other governors in there might have been a Republican. Anyway, so he endorsed legislation to make Oklahoma more business friendly. Ethics, labored for additional turnpikes, more toll roads, but toll roads instead of taxes probably was kind of the idea behind that. Yeah. And then passed House Bill 1017, and I remember this. Yeah, 1017 increased funding to education by a lot, 27% increase. Also made kindergarten compulsory, which means students were required to attend. And all of this, yeah, this was in the 90s. That sounds like a Democratic idea. You know, compulsory kindergarten, things like that. It's so interesting how the parties have shifted. Yeah, there's what they stand for. In 91, he retired from political life. Oh yeah, smaller classes. That's when you couldn't have more than 25, I think 25 in a classroom, which made it really hard in some schools. Yeah, you could have, they would allow you to have one or two over, but you had to have an aide in the class with you. I mean, it was a lot. Anyway, in 91, he retired from political life, returned to his cattle and wheat. And he died in 2009 in Enid.
He remarried in 2002.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
then he died.
His Miss Shirley, his wife, passed away. All right, and then Governor David Walters, a much younger fella. Yeah. Elected in he was elected in 90, served from 91 to 95. So he carried 75 of the state's 77 counties. Now, we forgot to mention,
someone carried all 77.
George Nye
carried all 77.
on his, the second term, he carried all 77. First time
to ever do that.
He was born near Canute, raised on a small cotton and wheat farm, valedictorian of his class. It doesn't say, but I'm going to guess Canute, 15, 20 students.
That's right.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That's what
Not
I'm going to
many,
guess.
not
Yeah. A few months later, he met Rhonda Smith of Elk City, and they got married and had 4 children, Sean, Tana, Kristen, and Elizabeth. He had a industrial engineering degree from the University of Oklahoma. Oh, and got a master's
in business administration.
from Harvard. So another really well-educated young man. He served as an administrator at the University of Oklahoma, entered private business, and then Governor Nye. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Governor Nye asked him to co-chair the 100-member Commission on Government Reform in '84, and I think that was like his
jumps.
Yeah, put the toe in the politics,
right.
And
Got a taste of it.
It stuck. And so in '86, we mentioned him earlier. He ran for governor, but he was defeated by Henry Bellman. And in '90, he campaigned on a platform of no new taxes without public approval, and to run state government like a business, and he supported term limits and education reforms. I don't know if you guys have picked up on this trend. Education reform is tagged on to almost every single governor. Why do we still need education reform? It is. Yeah. I mean, wow. Okay, I'm not going to pursue that any further, but just food for thought, people. Food for thought. Anyway, so he was his election signaled the desire for the public to elect a real outsider. And since Robert S. Kerr, almost 50 years before, he was the first non-politician elected as governor.
They're like, we want some fresh meat in here. We want somebody new.
Yeah. So they made major capital improvements in Oklahoma's higher education campuses. He served only 1 term.
Welfare reform programs.
Yeah. Quality jobs program, initiative in children's rural development, significant workers' comp reform, and a widely respected technology magazine recognized him as the nation's leading governor in the introduction of technology to government applications.
That's a pretty long thing to have on a t-shirt, but he was.
Yeah, so
4 years.
I had already worked for the state of Oklahoma by this time, and I was married and living in Duncan. So I missed out on the technology reforms working for the state of Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah.
So then in 1991, December of 1991, just at the end of his first year, his son Sean tragically died. It was determined he took an overdose of prescription medication after his apartment had been searched by police, and they found what they thought was 1 seed of marijuana. And then later it was determined that in fact was not the case. He did not have anything illegal in his apartment. I don't know the rest of the details except that Sean overdosed on the prescription medication, and the family was devastated. And Governor Walters really took
when he was asked if he would do it all over again. He said, "No, I would not. I lost my son because I ran."
Yeah. So I don't know all the details, but that's a sad situation. Now he and his wife took that sad situation though and created a memorial that is in the gardens of the governor's mansion. It's called Love Always
by Lena Beth Frazier of Norman.
Yeah, and so this bronze, this is his daughter Elizabeth was the model for the little girl, and then this young man is after his son Sean. And it etched in the granite around the base is the name of every child of every governor who has served the state of Oklahoma. And there are spaces to add, so they can add additional name. So that is I mean, super sad reason for creating this memorial, but just a really wonderful thing. And it said private donations, and former governors Warren and Nye funded the $50,000 sculpture.
Right.
So no government funds, no
Right, no
taxpayer
tax dollars.
monies, were spent on this. But yeah, it's a very nice thing. So then, after 3 years of investigation of alleged campaign contribution irregularities and fearing continued negative attacks would further damage his family, I mean, 3 years of trying to deal with the grief of losing their son, and agreeing, he asked prosecutors what they wanted to end the investigation. Right. Yeah. And the agreement was reached that he would plead guilty to a misdemeanor offense, pay a fine, and the record would be expunged in 12 months. He claimed innocence, but said it was in best interest of the state and his family to accept the plea agreement. He did not run for re-election and entered the international independent power business. I don't know what international independent power business means, but anyway, and so again, some kind of, I don't know, it just seems like more governors than not ended their time in office with a bad cloud
over their head.
Yeah. So, so anyway, I mean, we hate for that to happen, but I'm not going to tell you who was elected next, even though I know who it was. That's right. We want you to tune in whenever we have that next program. So,
guess what?
Yeah, tomorrow, Lois Dawn Jones. Wait, is that? Yeah, Lois Dawn Jones. Boy, I went blank for a minute. And Nancy Litch are going to be our guests. It's going to be a super cool talk with them about becoming a U.S. citizen. Lois Dawn just took the oath a few weeks ago and became a U.S. citizen. And Nancy actually helps people become citizens. And so, yeah, we're going to have I think it'll be really informative, really interesting. We'll have a firsthand experience from Lois Dawn. Nancy has she's a wealth of knowledge about what all it takes. And so we're going to talk to them and just see where that conversation takes us. So you guys don't want to miss that episode.
Tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Yep. Be here or be there or be square. Yeah. L7. Well, that was a throwback from the mod squad. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow.
Happy trails.
Happy trails.